So my name's Andrew Irving. I'm from the Department of French and Italian. I teach normally an advanced course in lit or language, and then I also manage our third semester French language program. The other half of my job is I run the French house. So this is about a course that we taught last spring. Naveen El-Nasri was actually the first professor to be teaching the course, and she had a wait list of about 10 people. We let it go up and split into two, and the two of us worked together, created a whole new course focused on writing, a writing workshop course. So just about every 2 weeks we did a different writing assignment, writing activity, a different writing genre, and then we studied it pretty intensely, and then we reproduced it. So it was a little bit repetitive throughout the semester, but I got the best teaching evaluations I've ever had in my life from the course. The students said it was one of the best things that they ever did in French because there was a lot of speaking going on in class. We corrected grammar all the time, but we also looked at ideas, we looked at style, and we looked at a lot of different things. So it was a really, really a good semester. Naveen and I actually worked together creating modules each week. Naveen is a really, really wonderful professor. Everybody loves her. She's not so experienced on the pedagogy side, so I kind of took the role in explaining how we're going to be pacing out all these modules and learning them. So the module that that I'm talking about today is one that we did on the press, and we had the plan for this was it was in March, and it was kind of easy. We already talked about it a little bit in February. So I'm going a little too fast here. I'm going to go backwards. So we had about 40 students in two sections of this class, and it was that writing workshop, like I told you, and about the press. We're going to interview a French journalist that I happen to know who works for a very big regional newspaper. We don't really have something like this, but just to pretend something like the New York Times also had the New York Times Midwest, New York Times West Coast. It was kind of like that. And so when we had two interviews with him, part one was discussion of an article, and I write down it's a rather boring article, so that we wouldn't focus on the content and focus on the form of the article and the formule, we call it, that they use as well, because actually French journalistic writing is a lot more strict than our American writing. And it's a little different, and it's a really good activity for students to write in this way because they have to write more synthesizing sentences, and so it's a really good thing to study. And then the week two, we were discussing a more exciting article, slightly more exciting article that deals with, I'll show you a little bit if you want to see the article, focused on a social, economical issue, actually, that was going on in the area. And at the end of discussing that second article, the big surprise, the big reveal, I'm sorry, at the end of discussing the first article, the big reveal was that the editors of the newspaper gave the students their assignment, and they all had to write an article based on the subject that they gave them. They only had between, I think it was Friday and Monday to write the article over the weekend, so it felt like a newspaper, and to research it and then turn it in on Monday. Actually, no, well, they came in on Monday, peer edited it together, and then we submitted it to the editors on Wednesday. Between Wednesday and Friday, they chose two of those articles and they published them in their online newspaper. So it was really pretty exciting, I think, for the students. So what did we want to learn? This is kind of a little basic. There could be more. We wanted them to learn and reproduce these forms, these formules in French journalistic writing, and we wanted them to write for a real audience, and we wanted to add a little bit of competition into the writing process as well to maybe see if that would help them write better, and it did. So again, so this is the journalist that we had. His name is Adrien Planchon. He actually spent a year in Madison. That's how I happened to know him. Really nice guy, very open, and would have been a very great conversation. And he also spent time speaking with students when he was in Madison at that level of French for the most part, so he knows how to maybe adjust his language. So this is for an advanced class, but still I couldn't talk to my advanced class like I talk to you now, for example, sometimes. I choose my words a little bit more wisely. It sounds the same as what I'm saying now, but it's not, you have to kind of control it a little bit. And then, so we had about 40 French students, and we were in a room in Van Nuys, and you can see they were very happy to be there, which is very good. So all in all, it seemed like a really, really good idea, which it was, I think. It was working really well. But before the first interview, his editor started to realize how exciting this was, and so she decided to come on board. She's a really fun person too, but she's a little bit more of a mess of a person, like doesn't follow rules, doesn't follow things. We had scripts. She's his editor. She does, so she's his editor. And then we had Naveen working with me. Naveen, I said, I can't say anything bad about Naveen, but she wasn't, she was really busy at the time, and we were in tune with what was going on. And then, but during the course of the discussions, she would kind of jump in and take the conversation in a different direction sometimes. And so, as I'm going to discuss maybe later, or we'll discuss, one of the problems is we didn't have a really strict script for this activity, which I think could be very important. And then we did have some technology problems as well, not just my face, but also we didn't think about miking the students. And so we had a very good mic, but getting that communication going and making it feel more real was kind of hard, I think. So we were holding this mic up, and we also had a camera, and we kind of pointing the camera around the room. So as we, there's other technologies I think we can use where all the individual students, perhaps their faces could be on there if we had their laptops or things like that. Then add into the mix the editor's editor, the main boss, thought this was extremely exciting. So the second week, he literally pushed his way in to the discussion. Those two people, Natasha and Adrian, were sitting down, and he literally pushed his way in and sat down in the middle of the camera and hijacked the whole discussion. Luckily, he's a really, really fun person, so he asked our students really great questions, and this actually became a moment for him to learn and not really for our students. He wanted to know what American people at that age, what they were using to consume information. So he wanted to see what was going on, and they were very clear in saying they don't read the newspaper, they barely go to newspaper websites, they get it through other sources and stuff. And so it was a good learning experience for him. And actually, all in all, it was a very good experience for our students too, but we really didn't end up doing everything that we needed to do. So the problems that we had, for example, their Skype on that side didn't work the day that we were set to go. We had done a dry run, so the first time we used FaceTime. And then the second week, they got their Skype working on their side. So that was one of the problems. Luckily, we had good contact. We didn't think about microphones for the students, like I said, or how to get them on camera. So now I see a whole different technology probably would have been better. As I explained, our script was derailed, even though we shared copies of a loosely put together script on both sides of the Atlantic. It really didn't go in the direction we always wanted it to go. And pedagogically speaking, unfortunately, with 40 students there, not everybody got to participate. So I was thinking it could have been a better way to set this up where they could participate. We'll be teaching the same class in the spring 2017. So I'm going to try to figure out a different way, maybe have more people on the other side of the Atlantic to do this.
Do an Hangouts that we do.
Exactly. I saw that and thought that's the perfect way to do this. So the big boss in France, he misjudged our students' level of French. So quite often as he was on the screen talking to them, I was over on the edge, or Naveen was on the edge, repeating quickly what he was saying so that the students could understand what was going on. Like I said, it was still a pretty great experience for them regardless. All in French. The whole thing was in French, yeah. So, but we said, like, we repeated again. Sometimes you just have to repeat. That's all. What he said, and then all the students prepared questions. They actually together prepared questions, and each of them had, we were supposed to have about 8 or 10 questions for the whole experience, and some of the questions went unanswered, which I, as a teacher, don't like to do. I don't like to have students go home, do homework, knowing that, it may not even be used in class. I don't like that type of motivation. So I wanted them all to be able to ask their questions, which they didn't. So while what we expected kind of was just Adrian and all the kids, and they're learning from each other, and they're interviewing him in a real newspaper article, what we got was really him and all the kids not following what we were going to do. So, but it was still a success. Like I said, the students really loved the class in general. The division put an article in there for us about this experience, and they're the ones that took a lot of the photos that you just saw. And then also, so here's what the first article that appeared in the French newspaper, their online newspaper, which they also share via Facebook and everything. So it got a lot of attention, which was nice, and that's the reason why the big boss derailed the second interview, because he saw this, he thought, this is really great stuff. So, so the second one, so here's the choice of article that he asked them to write. Unfortunately, I don't think was a very good choice, but it's what the editor said, so they had to write. They had to basically write, why would an American want to visit that region of France? And which can appear in a newspaper, but it's not as exciting as some other things that could be written about. I guess they wanted them to write something that their readers would read. So we had 2 students have their articles selected. One, Fonseca Angel, wrote one. He's not even a French major. He was a French certificate student. He graduated with a commerce degree. And he talked about Agnes Varda, if you've heard of her. She was also did a documentary in that region. And then Susanna Stuhl is her name, and I forget actually what she wrote about now. I don't remember, but 2 very, very, very well-written articles. And those articles were written and peer-edited and resubmitted again. So, and I think that's just about, yeah, that's all I have to tell you, I think.